Welcome back, warriors, to my channel, guys. Today I have another Diablo 3 video bringing you a class build guide for patch 2.6.9 right before season 22, and today we're showcasing the Witch Doctor's Mungdungu set, which is one of my favorites. Let's do it. Alright guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be breaking down this Mungdungu's Witch Doctor class set, which is a Spirit Barrage build. Today I'm going to showcase all the items, all the gear, the playstyle, all the advice that you need to play this build leading into season 22. This build is really fun for me. I came across it. I'm not a big Witch Doctor fan, but I came across it and I really do love that the Spirit Barrage is a highlighted skill and it does so much damage. Although that the Jade Harvester set is probably just a little bit better, but Witch Doctor is getting a slight buff going into season 22, and there's a few items that are on this build that are going to change going into season 22, so we'll talk about those. First, let's start with the build set itself, the set, okay? The Mungdungu's set. All right, the two-piece bonus is a big bad voodoo now follows you and lasts twice as long, which is okay. It's not a bad skill, but it's a nice little bonus. Four-piece is gaining 60% damage reduction for 30 seconds when you enter the spirit realm. This is awesome, guys. All you got to do, hit Spirit Walk, go in, you get 60% reduction, which is really nice. The six-piece set, Spirit Barrage deals 20,000% increased damage plus an additional percent equal to 5 times your mana regeneration per second. Now this class is all about Spirit Barrage. We're not really using anything else. We do have Piranado for some kind of some CC, some crowd control, and then of course we got Soul Harvest to bump up our defense, but this build is all reliant on Spirit Barrage. Alright guys, the gear for this set, you're going to want 5 pieces of the Mungdungu's set, which is going to be everything but the boots, okay? And then the boots and the belt are going to be a 2-piece Captain Crimson set, which is going to help with our reduced cooldown of skills and reduced cooldown or reduced resource costs of our abilities, because Spirit Barrage is a costly attack on top of doing CC Tornado and then being able to cast Soul Harvest constantly to keep our defenses up. So having this 2-piece set along with the 5-piece Mungdungu is going to make it really good. Now first on, before we get into exactly how you want these to roll out for each one, let's talk about the supporting items, okay? So first up, we have the Lakumba's Ornament. This pairs well really with the Sacred Harvester. The Sacred Harvester is going to give us now 10 stacks of Soul Harvest, which is amazing to help beef us up and make us super tanky. But with Lakumba's Ornament, you reduce all damage taken by 6% for each stack of Soul Harvest you have. So this is an extra 60% damage reduction when you have 10 stacks of Soul Harvest, which with this build you guys are going to keep up almost non-stop. Now coming into our offhand, you definitely want the Gazing Demise, and this is one of the key items that you can get at level 1 going into a new seasonal character, but this is a must-have. Okay, Gazing Demise, the Spirit Barrage gains the Phantasm Rune. Each Phantasm lasts twice as long, increases the damage of Spirit Barrage by 150%, and also increases the attack rate of your Manitou Specters. Now, what this is that you're going to end up having 3 Specters out all at the same time, or 3 Phantasms all out at the same time, dealing additional damage. Now, like I said before, some of these things are going to change, so we're going to get into it for Season 22. Now, the items that we're going to have with our Rings and Amulet is the Traveler's Pledge combo, which pairs very nicely with this build because Witch Doctors are actually rather, squishy. So with combination of the Soul Harvest stacks of intelligence along with the Lakumba's Ornament to give some damage reduction, we're just going to add some extra defense with the Traveler's Pledge and the Compass Rose. So while moving, damage taken is reduced up to 50%, and then while standing still you're going to do a lot more damage, up to 100%. This pairs really nicely with the class because it is a very fast class. You start hitting Spirit Walk, you're moving around, all you got to do is hit Spirit Barrage once and then it's above you, and then you're going to be doing a lot of damage and being able to cast a lot of spells. So you're going to be able to move around really nice. It's not necessarily the best speed build for the Witch Doctor, but it is a very fast build. So onto the other ring, we want Ring of Emptiness. You deal 300% increased damage to enemies affected by either your Haunt or your Locust Swarm. And we have Locust Swarm as one of our main attackers. It does cost a lot of damage, but Locust Swarm is going to be one of our ways to deal that extra 300% damage with Ring of Emptiness. Now, inside of the rings and the amulets, we want Bane of the Trapped to increase damage against CC impaired effects, which we have with this ring itself, with the gem itself, and then on top of Piranado, And then we got Bane of the Stricken, which each attack against an enemy increases more damage. And then we also have Enforcer. Now, Enforcer increases the damage of all your pets by 60%, and then your pets take 90% damage. Now, right now in Season 21, this does apply to our Spirit Barrage Specters. Okay, now going into Season 22, this is no longer going to be effect, guys, so this is going to change. So we got to do some testing. We're going to figure out, as soon as the PTR is done, we're going to figure out what we're going to end up taking in its place. But as of right now in Season 21, this is still in effect, but it will change in Season 22, so make sure that you take that out. Alright, now let's go into what you want in all of the gear. Okay, so starting with the helmet, you want intelligence, crit chance, increased spirit barrage. Shoulders, you want intelligence, life, armor, and then reduce cooldown. The gloves, you want intelligence, attack speed, crit chance, and damage. The weapon, you're going to want cold damage, because this is more of a cold build, with intelligence, increased attack speed, increased mana regen if you want. Boots, you're going to want intelligence, vitality, armor, increased spirit barrage damage. Offhand, you want damage, intelligence, crit chance, increased damage against elites, mana regen, increased spirit barrage damage with a bonus augmentation of intelligence. The pants, you want intelligence, vitality, armor with more intelligence. Belt, you want intelligence, vitality, life, armor, intelligence. And then chest piece, you want intelligence, vitality, armor, intelligence. The rings, you're going to want damage, crit chance, and crit damage. Damage, intelligence, crit damage, and crit chance. And then with the amulet, you want cold skills to do more damage, and then crit damage, crit chance. Alright guys, jumping into the skills, the first thing that you want is Locust Swarm, okay? It unleashes a plague of locusts that deals a crap ton of damage. You're going to want Pestilence on it. Pestilence is going to give you a 100% chance for this to jump to 2 enemies instead of 1, so effectively 3 enemies. And in combination with our Ring of Emptiness, you're going to deal 300% increased damage to any one enemy that's affected by Haunt or Locust Swarm. So this pairs out to be a really nice base combo. Next up, of course, we have Big Bag Voodoo. Conjure a fetish that begins a ritual dance, increases attack speed and movement of all nearby allies. This does include yourself. And we chose Rain Dance because we want the 250 mana per second regen while we're inside the ritual area. And as with the set piece, this follows you around and lasts twice as long. So having the mana regen for how much we're going to be casting spells is very important. You could end up swapping Big Bad Voodoo out if you really wanted to. It's not the best ability that comes from this set, but I do think it's really nice to keep your mana up as much as possible. Next up, guys, we have Spirit Walk, one of the main abilities of the class. You go into the Spirit Realm, and we chose Jaunt, increase the duration of Spirit Walk by 3 seconds, because we have the reduced 60% damage for 30 seconds while you enter the Spirit Realm. So while we're in Spirit Realm, we want the reduced attack or reduced damage, and while we're outside of it. So we want this to last as long as possible. Next up, our big bad defense to make us bulky is Spirit Harvest. You feed on the life force, gaining 3% intelligence for 30 seconds for each affected enemy. This stacks up to 5 times, but with our Sacred Harvester, it stacks up to 10 times, so this is a great combo. So effectively, we get 30% extra intelligence to help give us some more resist all, which is great. And then we chose Languish on it, so it increases your armor by 10% per harvested enemy and reduces their movement by 80% for another 5 seconds. So effectively, you get a nice resist all and a nice big armor buff. This is Soul Harvest is the main ability to keep us tanky throughout the entire duration of GRs, bounties, etc. Okay, next up we have Piranado, Piranhas with the Piranado rune. This is just a pool. Tornado, Piranha, Sharknado, if you will. This is our CC. This is really good on defense if your mana's low, you're running, you think you're going to get hurt. This is a great way just to pool a bunch of enemies together, Sacred Harvest them, and then just take them out. Now on to the star of the show is Spirit Barrage. Costs 100. Bombards enemies with 4 Spirit Bolts that deal a lot of damage as cold. This is why we have the additions to the cold damage, because this is a cold build. And then we use Manitou. Summons a Spectre that hovers over you, unleashing Spirit Bolts at nearby enemies for 6,000% weapon damage as cold over 20 seconds. Now what this does in combination of Gazing Demise is that it gains the Phantasm rune, which when a Spectre deals 750% weapon damage over as cold over 5 seconds to all enemies within 10 yards, you can have a maximum of 3. This is why it allows us to have a maximum of 3. So we have 3 of these going at the same time, along with Manitou, which unleashes, lets it hover, and then we're shooting shooting our Spirit Barrage constantly. So when we get into how to play this build, all you got to do is press it once, and then it's going to follow you around and just shoot out Spirit Barrages, dealing a crap ton of damage, which also allows you to cast other spells. So those are the skills, guys. Onto our passives. You want Spirit Vessel. When you receive fatal damage, it brings you back. Creeping Death, your Haunt, Locust Swarm, and the damage application from Piranhas lasts almost forever. This is huge. And then Rush of Essence to keep our mana up. When we cast Soul Harvest or Spirit Walk, we're going to get mana back over 10 seconds. You want your mana up as much as possible throughout the entire duration of using this build. We don't ever want to be out of mana. Last is Grave Injustice. You gain 1% of your maximum life and mana and reduce the cooldown of all your skills by 1 second when the enemy dies within 20 yards. So this, in combination with Spirit Barrage, just running around and people dying, you're going to be able to keep up all your skills constantly. There should rarely ever be a chance that you have a small cooldown, if any. Now, into the cube, guys, we want the Barber. The reason that we don't have the Sacred Harvester and the Barber switched is because Sacred Harvester's second ability, the Soul Harvest now stacks 10 times, is a set 10. Okay, there is no variable, as opposed to the Barber, where you have a chance between a particular percentage, but when you put it into the cube, it maxes it at 500%. So instead of dealing direct damage, your Spirit Barrage now accumulates on the target. When you stop casting it, it explodes, dealing 400 to 500% of the accumulated damage to all enemies within 15 yards. So when we cast, we want to cast it 3 times, if any, and then it's just hovering over us, so we don't have to cast it anymore. And then we just run around and let it deal its damage as we're moving along the greater rift. This is amazing. The Barber is a must need. Next up, guys, Mask of Jirum. Pets deal 150 to 200% increased damage. Now, again, like we mentioned earlier, leading into season 22, the Spectrums are no longer going to be considered as pets. So you're going to have to change this. But for right now, getting the extra 200% damage from your Spectres is just huge, okay? Lastly, Ring of Royal Grandeur to reduce the cost of both the Captain Crimson and your actual Mundungun set. Okay, guys, now let's get into how to play this build. All right, now the Soul Harvester build, as you guys can see in the gameplay, all you want to do is run up. You want to make sure that you keep hitting Soul Harvest, but the first thing you want to do is pop Voodoo. For me, this is what I do. I pop Voodoo, I run up, I Soul Harvest a bunch of enemies, try to get that going, and then I pop Spirit Barrage at least 1 to 2 times, if not 3 times, depending on the mob. And then you just run around constantly casting Spirit Walk. You always want to cast Spirit Walk whenever it comes up. When you come out of Spirit Walk, cast it again. You should be able to, with the cooldown reduction from Spirit Barrage, always be casting Spirit Walk. On top of that, when you come across elites and stuff, recast Spirit Barrage once it goes away. Or if you want to cast out 3 different ones and have them do some additional damage, you can cast 1 or 2 every few seconds. And then you can cast Piranhado for if you get into a bind, or Locust Swarm if you want to do some additional damage to a bunch of enemies in a group. If you want to circle them all up and then hit Locust Swarm a couple times and then Spirit Barrage, you're going to do a lot of damage to these enemies, because it's not just Locust Swarm that does the additional damage. It is everything that deals additional damage that has been affected by Locust Swarm. So any ability, including our Spirit Barrage. So that's really how you want to play the build, guys. You never want to be outside of Spirit Walk. You want to cast Spirit Barrage and have it going all at the same time. And then Soul Harvest non-stop. Every single chance you get to Soul Harvest. You need to maintain your tankiness with this build. I have noticed that while I've been playing it, that if I don't have Soul Harvest up to its max, or at least 5, that I feel really squishy at the higher greater rifts. If you try to push with this build, you're going to feel real squishy without this additional armor. So make sure you're constantly Soul Harvesting, which can make this build a little tricky to play, because when you have Spirit Barrage over your head and you're kind of just running around, you know, Spirit Barrage is going to be hitting targets non-stop. So it's going to be tough to get the Soul Harvest off. So what I found to do is Spirit Walk to get the increased movement speed, go into a group, Soul Harvest, and then cast Spirit Barrage in that order. It kind of helps you maintain Soul Harvest to keep your defenses up. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I really do appreciate everybody watching in. Let me know if this build guide does help you out. The link to the D3 planner will be down in the description, guys. So if you did enjoy today's video, drop a like. That really does help me out, guys, leading into season 22. We've been pushing out a lot of Diablo 3 content, and we want to keep putting this content out for you guys. If you are new here, consider subscribing and joining the Warriors, guys, so you don't miss out on Diablo 3 content. And for me, Warlug, as always, guys, stay gaming. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.